How do you approach that?
Yeah, like I feel like myself, the at least the franchise model for me,
Yeah.
that decision itself was that in a way a compromise in order to for us to expand, but also be true to ourselves,
Hmm.
right? Because as the HQ, as the you know the core of the brand, um, the most important part for us is a the supply chain, the coffees
Hmm.
that are being used, right? And B, the the operations, the service, how the coffee is served to our customers. So those two, and then of course there's different things underneath that, but those are the two core things that we will control at all costs.
The introduction to regenerative coffee farming workshops are now available on demand in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. For coffee producers, the workshop is available for just $10, and for everyone else, it's $20. Led by our incredible professors, the workshop is packed with practical knowledge and strategies to help coffee farmers and the entire coffee industry adapt to the challenges of climate change, rising costs, and market demands. If you're a business owner, this workshop is a great and affordable way to inform your employees about the challenges ahead while also supporting Mapper Forward. Head to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the description to purchase the on-demand version and start your journey towards a more sustainable coffee future today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is unfortunately episode 5 of a 5-part series with Yozo from Kurasu. Folks, there are some series that I do, and I know I've said this before, but I rarely say this. There are some series that I do on this podcast that I'm kind of sad that I'm the host, because like an earlier version of me could have really used the information in the series when I was at different parts of my career. This is one of those series. And so, Yozo, I can't thank you enough for how generous you've been with regards to sharing what you've talked about. And Kurasu is a brand that I am very excited to watch expand over the next few years, especially hearing, like I got to witness firsthand the heart and the intention behind the brand. And then I got to get exposure about you before I met you. And then I got to meet you and have this conversation with you. So there's an integrity in your intention that I see. And a younger version of me who was building businesses would have been very inspired by that and would have found a lot of it would have given me the confidence that I needed at the time to stick with the intentionality that I had behind building businesses. Because right now I feel like that there's a signal that's out there in the market, and the signal is spend as much money as you can on branding, spend as much money as you can on marketing, make sure that you get, do whatever is necessary to amplify what you're doing. And what I see from what you're doing, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that your intentionality is more holistic than that. It's about the product as much as it is about the brand. They're synonymous with each other, and the customer experience is as important as those two other things. And your partner experience with your franchisees is as important a commitment to the brand as it is to the product and everything else. I'm understanding that correct?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, first of all, yes, you definitely are. Thank you for so eloquently explaining that for me. But I do feel like we've talked about the growth of the brand, and we talked about the changes that have happened. But I do feel,
Mm-hmm.
at least for myself internally, of course, in terms of the brand or in terms of how we've grown, it's changed significantly. But I feel like the intention that I've had when I started the brand, or at least the way that I think of things, or the way that I've again always want to learn and always want to grow in the right way.
Mm.
Always want to sort of not be true to myself. Those kind of things I've always had, and so those things, like the core values that are inside of me, have never changed.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, I do feel like in a way it's sort of the same. It's
Okay.
different, but it's the same, right? It's the the approach that I have, and also that's I feel like maybe that's why the passion is still there, and I feel like
Mm.
will continue to be there. Um, I started this, and it's been there's been of course challenges, but it's sort of been very fun for me, and very very just yeah just motivating, and very um something that I have never lost passion for. So yeah, I hope that that sort of will continue to push me and sort of push the brand forward as well.
We're going to, in this episode of the series, we're talking about expanding Kurasu globally. Where I want to start that is where what we were just talking about, which is this idea of when you look to grow, when you look to expand, when you look to go beyond what's comfortable for you, oftentimes what we see is the people have to change what you were just saying, their intention and their integrity and their values. And I really push back on that notion that people say it's like, well, we're getting bigger and we have to make sacrifices and we have to betray a lot of that stuff. Like people that are advising people like you usually will say things like, but listen, now you're playing in the big leagues. Now you've got to think like a grown-up business person. Now you've got to do things differently, right? I am wondering what your approach to that is going to be.
You mean when when that happens, or like we mean like when
Well,
people approach us
well,
in that way, or
what I mean is like, okay, you grew in Japan, right? And then from that, actually, you did it a different way. You went
yeah,
international and then you started growing locally, right? But as you grow with the number of stores, you will get bigger globally. And as you get bigger globally, people will have opinions about how you try to do things and how you should do things and how you should expand globally, because there are many different business models to be able to do that, right?
Sure.
How do you approach the decision making around, do I stay true to my values or do I look for private equity? Do I look for venture capital? Do I decide to go a more corporate approach where I have to give up some of my values in order to keep up with, like when people bring investors in, a lot of the time they don't realize that those investors are going to influence a lot of the decisions that you're going to make.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
Yeah, like I feel like myself, at least the franchise model for me,
Yeah.
that decision itself was that in a way a compromise in order for us to expand, but also be true to ourselves. Right? Because as the HQ, as the the core of the brand, the most important part for us is the supply chain, the coffees that are being used, right? And B, the the operations, the service, how the coffee is served to our customers. So those two, and then of course there's different things underneath that, but those are the two core things that we will control at all costs, right? And besides that, I think there's different approaches that you expand in different countries, right, or different communities. Every country is different. Every community is different, and I feel like having local partners is had to have the same values for us was the right approach to doing so. So there was that approach, or of course, like you said, bringing in investors, bringing in private equity, and doing our own. And the what is usually said is, if you that way you have more control over building, because right,
Bro, you've been in finance. Come on now.
But that is unfortunate. I feel, at least for me, that is, and then that is not the case. And then arguably, I think other people there have been a lot of successful, quote unquote, successful people that have taken the venture capital approach and become a global company, and they would have probably different things to say. But at least for us, I feel like, for me and for myself as well, in terms of my values, I want to focus on the things that I love. Right. And I really hate explaining myself. Or like, in a way,
Me
like,
too.
I really fit, because I do feel like, who is, my pushback would be for VCs and private equity or investors is like, do they understand more about coffee than me?
Or my business than me?
My business, of course, my business and my brand, but yeah, but about coffee as well, right? Like, can they add value to us? Besides them, then that is, I think, the important part about having investors is less about the. Oops, I think I froze a bit.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm good. Yeah, it's less about the capital and more about what kind of sort of values that what kind of intrinsic values, or what besides the capitals that they can bring in, right? Or whatever, whether that be the network or knowledge or whatever that is. And for me, I feel like if there is someone that understands, can add more value for us in terms of, from the coffee perspective, that might be a consideration. But I doubt that there will be someone that, from an investor perspective, bringing in capital that would add value for us from on that side. So, and again, I do want to try to keep on doing what I love to do, which is what we're doing now. And I don't want to, I hate explaining myself. And a lot of the venture capital, a lot of the investor relationship is about really justifying your actions, I feel, or like, explain why you take this approach. Right.
Well, and it would be different if the explanation was, help me understand how this is better for us in a holistic perspective. But that's not the case usually. When an investor is asking you, they are asking you to validate something from profitability perspective, or from an expense perspective, and you're making decisions based on a different way of approaching business. And they are isolating a part of the whole ecosystem and saying, say to me how this is going to benefit profit. Where you're talking about as a creative, you're more than like your father than you are like any corporate businessman, right? Like, your creative thing looks at the entire ecosystem that you're creating and looking to make decisions. So if somebody comes to you and says, explain to me this part of your business, you're able to talk to them about the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
You're able to tell people about all of that. I'm not sure that you'd mind explaining an ecosystem.
Yeah. But, exactly. Or having a conversation like this, I can probably go on all day talking with you.
Right. But when somebody is reducing your business to a financial decision, when your decisions are so multifaceted, you're making a decision not just based on price, you're making a decision based on relationships, as well as on quality, as well as impact, as well as on sustainability. And all of those things have clearly defined aspects of them and definitions that are associated to them that tie back to the brand that is Kurasu.
Yeah.
The difference, if we go back to the last episode, the difference between percent Arabica and Kurasu, without any disrespect to percent Arabica, I can see what I just said then. I can see all of that in your business and your brand. Yeah. I don't see that depth in percent Arabica. I see decisions being made on capital and on profitability.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, that is one-dimensional capitalism. Whereas what I see with what you're doing and the expansion that you're creating, like I see David and Val invested with every cell in their body in the success of Kurasu. I see Amin, they're excited about everything. He's excited about serving me a coffee. He's excited about watching me drink that coffee and seeing what I'm going to think about it. But he's also excited about his team's experience. He's excited about the way that everybody's engaging. That's the difference. It's not one-dimensional. There's no financial arrangement between Mappleford and Kurasu Works. Just so that you know.
Yeah, no,
it's but just, I like being impressed.
Yeah.
I really like being impressed by a brand.
I think you make a really good point and talk about franchise. You know, of course, the partnership is, you know, the most important part of it, aligning on the same values. But for me, again, I just mentioned this, but that's separate. And then profits are important, right?
Hell yes.
Right. Building and
100%.
numbers are important, right? And I feel, and then our partners, including David Val and including, you know, our other partners in different regions, you know, they're focused on that, right? And they should be. Needs to be a profitable business.
Yeah.
But it's, and then we're of course working with them in order for everyone to achieve that, because it's in our best interest. But at the same time, like, it's not our main. It doesn't need to be our main focus at the same time, right? Because that's, for me, that having the right franchise partner makes sense, because for me, you can have that right separation of, you know, having a sustainable profit business, and then worrying about the supply chain and making sure that the quality of the coffee we're using, we have the right partners to source our coffees and roasting it the right way. Because that's what we're focused on. We're focused on, you know, more the sourcing. We're focused more on, you know, the providing coffee to our customers in the right way. The training, you know, that's something that we won't compromise, and that's something that needs to be, we need to be on the same page to begin with, right? But as long as we can sort of, we are able to focus on that part of it, and our partners in the different regions are able to focus on, you know, operating and managing and expanding, then I think that's a really great, I feel that's a really great separation of, you know, the different sides of the businesses.
And then your job just becomes about conspiring to each other's success.
Yeah.
Right? You've got your own lane. Your job is to, like, you do your job well, and by doing your job well, you're conspiring to the success of your partners, because you're not letting them down. You're constantly elevating each other's experience.
Yeah.
So tell me, if you had to give the younger version of yourself some advice about what's coming, what would you tell him?
Yeah.
I've never asked anybody that on the podcast. It's a fucking good question. I should ask that more.
That is a really interesting question. It's funny because I actually was asked that question like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, at World of Coffee. There was someone doing interviews for coffee professionals.
Okay.
And yeah, I feel like I hope I was able to give a satisfying answer, because I sort of but anyway, how I answered is, I would, in a way, I would do it all the same. Like, I would not give that advice, because I wouldn't want that advice, or I don't know. I don't know if I would have listened to myself.
Word. Let me ask you the question differently then. Wait, let me ask you the question differently. What piece of information could he have used that he didn't have access to, that would have made the journey have a little less friction in it?
Yeah. I think, probably probably a lot of things, for sure. But sorry, first to sort of go back to the point that I was trying to make is, I feel like, again, I feel like the journey that the way that I answered that question, I feel like the journey that I made was something that, again, I would do all over again, because because I would not be where I am if I did not have that challenge, and if I did not, learn in those steps. If I had learned, I don't like doing, the anecdote that I gave to him as well was like, they're video games where you complete the game, and then you're able to start over with the same status that you have, and you're super strong, and then you're able to clear everything.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
And
well, that
the
makes
way
sense.
Approach. But anyway, I sort of, after answering that was my genuine answer. But at the same time, it's like, did I give him what he expected?
No, but you're not somebody who gives people what they expect, right? Like, that's what makes. But that's the point of the way that you're building.
No, but to give you, I guess, to give you an answer is to give you a more straight answer. I feel like I would definitely would love to learn more about the coffee, because I'm focused more on for me, I'm interested more on the supply chain now in the past few years. And that's only been, again, from the past few years. And I've always been interested, but I never really had the opportunity to dive in deep.
Right.
And yeah, I think definitely my first origin trip was to Ethiopia. And then where I visited Eliana.
Oh, wow.
So that was my
first. So many
first
people in common.
meeting. Eliana was like, yeah, again, we could probably do another episode about Eliana.
It's so funny.
Like,
so many people say that about meeting Eliana.
Oh my gosh.
I've had dinner with her so many times. I love Eliana. Shout out to Eliana,
yeah, but
she's intense
definitely
in the best way.
She definitely changed my perspective on a lot of things. Of course, what's happening in origin and what's happening in Ethiopia, but just, I guess, the industry, the specialty coffee industry as a whole, how, she straight up told me, and I'm paraphrasing, but like, specialty coffee, like, you haven't done anything, right. we haven't really, done we say that we were making all these changes, but you guys aren't really doing anything, you know. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what she said. And I was like, yeah, but you do have a point. You do have a point in a way, right?
We need people like that saying things like that to us, right? And that's an example of what I mean. Like, if the younger version of you, or the previous versions of you, as I like to call it, had somebody that kind of whispered to you, something like that, because you are doing it. In my opinion, you are doing it, but you're not doing it different enough.
Yeah.
Based on what Heliana's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the future version of you remembers this moment that you asked this question, and when you were asked it at World of Coffee a couple of weeks ago. Well, what advice would you... Wait, let me say it this way. When the future version of you watches this back, however many years ahead that is, what do you want him to know that you hoped for him?
What do you want him to know that...
No, what do you... that you hoped for him.
Yeah, you mean myself towards the future version of me?
So I talk to the 80-year-old version of me all the time. I record her voice messages. I record her videos.
That's so interesting.
So that she can see how I got to where she will be. So I'm talking to the future version of myself. I have thousands of videos and audios recorded to the future versions of myself. So what do you want? Yeah, well, she's my business partner, right? She's my life partner. I haven't met her yet. I haven't become her yet. But that's who I'm doing this for. So what would you want him to know that you hope for him?
Yeah, well, I guess, just the feeling that did it the right way.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that you know, you don't have regrets, right? You probably there will be regrets, probably, but in the bigger picture, that it was, the right path that you took. And also again, we touched on this, but you are leaving still optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that it's, just, and staying and appreciation for everything and everyone that has sort of made this journey possible and come to this moment. And just being happy, right? Just being happy, just being even if it might be, the last leg of your life, just being still optimistic about the future. I think that would be great.
That's so beautiful. I hope that when he does watch this back, that he has arrived there.
I hope so.
Thank you for a delightful conversation. Really, I am honored that I get to do the job that I do. And conversations like these are the ones that just really blow me away. So thank you. I really appreciate your time. I know you have a newborn at home, so time is an extra special, precious commodity when you're a new parent. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And a special shout out to your wife who's given you the space to do this. So hi.
I'll say hi to her. Yeah.
And please do. will you let everybody know where you have kurasus around the world so that people can visit them and how they can learn more about kurasu?
Sure, thank you. So in Kyoto, of course. We have 4 now in Jakarta, which is again the city that we've I think will continue, and the country that will continue to grow. Bangkok, Singapore, Dubai. Yeah, and I am so excited and interested because in Southeast Asia, in particular, in places like Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, because there are coffee origins as well, coffee growing countries as well. I feel like there's a lot of things that we can be doing there, and building a brand in coffee origin is something that I'm very, very interested to do, because that gives us opportunity to, of course, just, the obvious route would be the States, Europe, but Brazil, Colombia, Honduras
100%.
or Ethiopia, Kenya. Oh, wow, that would be something that would be very exciting if possible.
And also different. To lean into what Heliana was saying, it would be different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And inspiring. And the ripple effects that has when you're actually there and dedicating effort into cultivating the local economy. Now, it's not just about farmers. It's about amplifying what the farmers do and giving it some longevity that's local, which is really exciting. I am so excited about watching what you do. I'm very excited about it, and I think that you're someone to watch in coffee moving forward. So I hope that you will come back on the podcast.
I hope I don't let you down. Eliana sort of said the same thing to me, so I hope I don't let her down as well.
Bro, we're not going to let you let us down. Trust me. We've already had a conversation with the future version of you. So anyway, will you do me the honor of ending the episode for us and signing off?
Yes. Well, peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Thank you so much.
Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Bye. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.